The storm over Coruscant was unnatural, even for a city that never slept. Black clouds churned like a living beast, pierced again and again by lightning that lit up the skyline in violent flashes. Far below, the Jedi Temple, once a symbol of peace, was burning. Flames poured out of shattered windows, and the sacred spires looked like torches in the endless night. Blaster fire echoed across the courtyard and through the giant halls. Screams, the kind that stopped suddenly. Inside the temple, the order given only minutes ago was being carried out with cold precision. Eliminate every Jedi. Clone troopers marched in perfect lines, their white armor reflecting the fire around them as they turned on the very people they once saluted. Jedi Masters fought bravely, deflecting blaster bolts in flashes of blue and green. Some managed to protect the younglings for a moment, but only a moment. Far too often a saber fell silent, and the troopers continued forward without hesitation. On the High Council level, Master Yoda stood by the shattered window. He felt every death ripple through the Force, thousands of voices extinguished like candles in a storm. But then something changed. A sudden emptiness cut through the current. The Force stuttered. A gap. A missing piece. For the briefest moment, it was as if the entire universe had lost its breath. Yoda whispered to himself, fear creasing his ancient features. There's nothing. No light. No dark. A hole in the Force. This is what presence slips outside the destiny of all living things. Across the skyline, far from calm reflection, Emperor Palpatine also paused. He stood before his office window, watching the temple burn with a quiet smile, until his expression snapped into confusion. He reached into the Force like a fisherman tugging on a net, and there it was, a place his power could not reach. No destiny. No path. A void. He muttered, unacceptable. Then louder, commanding, deploy all units. If something exists without the blessing of the Force, I want it found. He pressed his hands to the glass as rain struck harder outside. It is a threat no prophecy speaks of, and I do not tolerate threats. Down on the courtyard, the storm intensified. Rain slapped against the stones so fiercely it seemed to boil on impact. Lightning struck near the temple stairs and reality itself tore open. A swirling circular wound in the air, crackling with energy. A strange figure launched out of it like a ragdoll shot from a cannon. He landed face first in a puddle with a pathetic splat, cape flopping over his head like a soaked towel. He groaned. That portal better not have made me miss the sail. The bald man stood up, letting the rain wash dirt off his yellow jumpsuit. The white cape hung limp, red gloves dripping. His expression, even with the chaos around him, was not fear. It was disappointment. He scanned the battlefield. Burning temple. Fallen Jedi. Clone troopers moving in terrifying formation. He sighed. Definitely not the supermarket. A squad of clones noticed him and immediately raised their blasters. Halt! Hands behind your head, one shouted. He blinked, unfazed. Do you guys happen to sell discount cabbage? Last warning, the trooper barked back. The bald man stared blankly for a moment before giving up on diplomacy. You stormtrooper types are all the same. The entire squad opened fire. A barrage of red energy bolts engulfed him, sparks erupting everywhere. The explosions stopped, and as the smoke drifted away, he was still standing. A bit wet, a bit annoyed. He brushed smoldering soot off his shoulder. That tickled. You ever try fabric softener? Gets rid of that static cling. Without hesitation or dramatic buildup, he threw a single punch, not even at them specifically, just in their general direction. The air detonated. A shockwave exploded outward. Clone troopers were launched through the air like rag dolls, crashing into pillars and collapsing armor first into the ground. Several helmets cracked open from the Force. Silence swept across the courtyard for several seconds. Even the storm seemed to pause in surprise. Captain Rex arrived just in time to see his men scattered across the courtyard like broken toys. He stared at the bald stranger standing casually in the middle of a smoldering crater. The man waved awkwardly. "Sorry about the mess." Rex pointed his blaster, voice shaky. "Identify yourself." "Saitama," the man said with almost comical enthusiasm. "Hero for fun. Professional bargain hunter." "Well, I was." Rex didn't lower his weapon. "What are you?" "Hungry," Saitama replied. "And lost." "Mostly lost." More troopers limped over, shaking. One whispered to Rex, "Sir, our rifles didn't do anything to him." The captain hesitated only a second before barking an order, "Stand down. Lower weapons." The troopers obeyed, confused and terrified. Saitama scratched his cheek. "So, anyway, which way to the nearest supermarket?" But before Rex could answer, the air wavered again. That strange glitch-like distortion returned, like the world buffering around Saitama. He sighed as the swirling vortex began to form beneath his feet. "Oh, come on, not again." The ground vanished, and Saitama was yanked into the rift. Rex stood frozen in the rain, staring at the empty spot where the stranger once was. The firelight flickered across the captain's armor as he spoke barely above a whisper. "What in all the stars was that thing?" Thunder rolled overhead, but this time, Rex didn't blame the storm for the crash of fear in his chest. The galaxy had just met something that lived outside its rules. And Rex had a sinking feeling. This was only the beginning. Saitama fell through darkness again, the kind that made no sense. A twisting tunnel of colors, light, and static swallowed him whole. One moment he was standing in the rain, and the next he was tumbling through something that wasn't exactly space and wasn't exactly air. There was no up, no down, no logic, just swirling chaos and broken pieces of reality. And then suddenly, he crashed through something metal and landed flat on his back. He stared up at a cracked ceiling panel flickering with electrical sparks. He groaned. "My back isn't insured for this kind of travel." He stood, brushing dust and shards off his suit. His cape looked worse than ever, droopy, burnt on one edge, and beginning to smell faintly of melted plastic. The room around him was enormous, like a stadium meant for giants. Half the floating platforms were destroyed, twisted into jagged shapes that hung precariously above a wide abyss. Fires burned here and there, casting sharp shadows over the ruined structure. The place felt abandoned and intimidating all at once. Saitama frowned. What kind of supermarket has its shelves floating? He took a few steps forward, curious despite himself. His boots clicked on metal flooring as his eyes wandered across the chaos. Massive seating pods, once suspended gracefully in a circular arena, now lay tilted or dangling by sparking cables. Smoke drifted like ghosts between soft emergency lights. The silence broke. Slow, hollow clapping echoed. Someone was approaching, footsteps calm and confident. Saitama turned to see a hooded figure emerging from behind a shattered pillar. The flickering red emergency lights reflected off the man's pale face. His smile was thin, full of teeth and secrets. "Emperor Palpatine." "Welcome," he said, voice soft and venomous. "You fall from the sky like a discarded tool, yet you stand in the heart of my empire." Saitama blinked at him. "You know, you remind me of a manager I once had. Always talking down to people, wearing a cloak of superiority. But he wasn't into the electric wizard thing." Palpatine's smile twitched. "Electric wizard thing." The Emperor circled around him as though studying an exotic animal. "You have no presence in the Force," he said. "Not a ripple. Not even a whisper. You are an insult to fate itself." "Thanks," Saitama replied, confused whether that was meant to be a compliment. Palpatine raised one shaking hand, trying to feel out the stranger further, trying to grasp some thread of destiny, some signature of life. Nothing. It was like reaching into a hole in existence. No light. No dark. Only void. The Emperor hissed under his breath. "How fascinating." Saitama shrugged. I'm just here for vegetables. Preferably discounted. Palpatine's lips curled. Let's test the void. Red lightning exploded from the Emperor's fingers. The entire chamber lit up in a violent storm of raging electricity. Consoles exploded. Marble cracked. Platforms shook. The lightning didn't just strike Saitama. It swallowed him completely in a cage of blinding power. When it faded, Saitama stood exactly where he was. One glove slightly smoking. He stared down at his suit with mild annoyance. Great. More static. Next time, bring fabric softener. Palpatine stumbled backwards. That simply shouldn't be possible. In a fragment of broken transparasteel on the floor, lightning reflections morphed into a strange vision. Two children standing side by side under a storm. One bolt. Palpatine blinked and the image vanished, leaving only shards. A phantom memory he could not place. Saitama waved casually. So, where's the exit in this place? A guy like you should at least have signs. The answer came not in words but in an iconic mechanical hiss. A dark figure dropped from the upper levels and landed in a crouch. A red blade of energy surged to life with a chilling hum. Darth Vader. His towering presence and heavy breathing filled the air with menace. He pointed his lightsaber at Saitama. You stand before the Emperor. Kneel or be destroyed. Saitama looked at him for a long moment. Nope. With a roar, Vader lunged, bringing his blade down in a deadly arc. Sparks flew as metal scorched and lights flickered. Saitama simply sidestepped. Man, that's a lot of cape. Must be annoying when it rains. Vader attacked again, furious. Their dance became a blur, Vader swinging powerful strikes and Saitama casually walking around them like a bored mall-goer avoiding flyers. If you aimed half as hard as you swing, Saitama said, you might actually hit something. Vader growled and lifted both hands, forcing his power through the Force. Invisible energy slammed into Saitama's chest, hard enough to flatten a speeder. Saitama slid back a few inches and frowned. That's rude. With one casual finger, he flicked Vader in the forehead. For a moment, Vader didn't even react. He shot backwards like a launched missile, smashing through a floating platform and leaving a cratered dent. Palpatine's shock shifted into glee. Remarkable, he whispered. A power without destiny, without limits. He turned away, cloak whirling dramatically. Prepare my ritual chamber, he ordered one of the terrified officers nearby. The galaxy is about to be rewritten, and I will hold the pen. Saitama blinked again. Am I seriously the only person who just wants directions? Vader crawled from the rubble, rage burning like fire. His red blade buzzed to life once again. He thrust out his hand, dragging metal and debris into a swirling vortex aimed at Saitama. Saitama sighed and punched the incoming mass. It shattered into dust and smoke. You're really not getting the hint, Saitama said. He crouched. A moment of silence. Then he launched himself downward through a cracked section of floor. A sonic boom echoed through the entire chamber. Vader stumbled as the blast wave knocked him down once more. He stared at the fractured metal, his breathing ragged. What is he? He whispered. No one had an answer. Meanwhile, Saitama plummeted into the underbelly of the Senate, another random portal rupture waiting for him like a glitch on loop. Above, Palpatine remained still for a moment, eyes narrowed. This anomaly, this impossible void, the Force could not account for him. That terrified the Emperor. And it thrilled him. He whispered into the dark chamber, voice crawling with hunger. With this, I will break the future. And rebuild it under my rule. Lightning flashed overhead, sealing his vow. The hunt had truly begun. Saitama fell again, this time not through cosmic darkness, but into the guts of a gigantic machine city. Metal beams, engine conduits, and humming plasma coils blurred around him as gravity dragged him through a long maintenance shaft. Sparks burst past him like fiery fireflies. He crashed through a mesh walkway and landed on his feet, sending a loud metallic clang through the cavernous underbelly of the Senate district. He dusted his gloves casually. If this is the basement, no thank you. Hanging bridges crisscrossed the abyss around him. Pipes leaked smoke and steam. The air smelled like oil mixed with burnt circuits, industrial and suffocating. Above, the Senate building loomed like a cracked crown, its foundations glowing under emergency power. Somewhere distant, alarms wailed. Troopers were on the hunt. Saitama squinted into the shadows. Maybe the grocery section is down here? Doubt it, but hey, why not check? He wandered forward, stepping over debris without a care. His footsteps echoed loudly, yet the environment felt eerily empty. A sudden burst of blaster fire cracked behind him. Troopers had found him again. More than a dozen this time, their armor glinting blue with 500 first markings. They spread out on the walkway, weapons locked. One of them shouted, "Target reacquired. Fire!" Bolts screamed down the walkway. Saitama squinted as red light flashed past in rapid succession. He raised one hand lazily, not even looking at them. The bolts deflected off his palm like raindrops against steel. He let out a long sigh. "What's with all the shooting? I just asked for directions." He flicked his wrist, a tiny, careless motion. But the air rippled. The squad was blown backwards by a gust of force so strong it tore their blasters out of their hands and sent them tumbling like leaves across the walkway. Several flipped over the railing and only barely grabbed onto cables, legs dangling above the endless drop. One clone screamed into the abyss, saved only by a comrade who grabbed his arm. Saitama stopped walking and looked genuinely concerned. "Hey, careful. Big fall down there." But before he could help, a familiar blue-striped helmet emerged from a service corridor. Captain Rex. His steps were hesitant, not out of fear, but out of confusion. The last hour had shattered everything he believed. He approached slowly, blaster lowered. "You again." Saitama scratched his cheek. "Do I look like someone else?" There's not exactly competition in the bald cape department. Rex's breathing was unsteady. "My men, they fired. The order demanded it. But my head," he tapped the side of his skull. "The voice, the compulsion, it stopped when you arrived." Saitama tilted his head. "Voice? You guys hear voices? You might want to get that checked." Rex stared at him, desperation in his eyes. "You broke something in us. Something that controlled us." "How?" Saitama shrugged. "Punching? I'm pretty good at that." Rex looked away, as if trying to piece together an entirely new universe. Footsteps clattered from above. More troopers poured into the cavern, forming a firing line. Their visors tracked Saitama, their intent unshakably lethal. Rex stood between them and the anomaly. "Stand down," he commanded. No one listened. Rex shouted again, voice breaking. "I said stand down." Still no movement. Their weapons stayed trained. They pulled the triggers. Rex's heart almost stopped, but the shots never hit. Saitama wasn't where he had been standing. He reappeared behind the firing line, tapping one trooper on the shoulder. "Boo!" The poor clone jumped so hard he fired into the ceiling. Panels fell, clattering onto armor. Troopers spun around, completely disoriented. Saitama gently pushed a cluster of them aside, and they tumbled over each other like bowling pins. Rex's mind raced. This wasn't power. This was nonsense made flesh. Reality bending to convenience. Saitama stretched his arms over his head, yawning. "You guys are really into shooting. Do you not have hobbies?" Rex approached, this time with something like resolve. "We need to move. The Emperor will send something worse." Saitama glanced at him. "Who's the Emperor?" "Angry Electric Grandpa." Rex blinked. "Yes, exactly that." Before Saitama could make a joke, the entire structure shuddered. Metal groaned from above like a giant beast in pain. A deep rumble rolled through the building. Rex looked up sharply. "He's activating something." Saitama squinted upward. A vortex, thinner this time, unstable, flickered like a hologram above the Senate dome, its swirling energy already affecting gravity. Pieces of debris began lifting from the ground. Loose cables snaked upward, drawn to an unseen force. Rex stepped back in panic. "He's creating a ritual field. Trying to contain you." Saitama scratched his head. "Contain? Like a seat belt?" No, Rex said grimly. More like a cage. A cold realization set into the captain's bones. The Emperor didn't just want to stop Saitama. He wanted to use him. Saitama stared at the rising vortex thoughtfully. If he wants a fight, fine. It's faster than wandering around. Rex grabbed his wrist firmly. No, you don't understand what's at stake. He seeks to rewrite the galaxy, using you as the weapon that erases destiny. The bald hero stared blankly at Rex's hand for a second. That sounds like a whole lot of responsibility for a guy who just wanted groceries. The floor quaked again, harder. A blinding column of red energy shot upward through the Senate building overhead. Rex stumbled. He's sealing the district. You need to choose, right now, run or confront him. Saitama took a deep breath. He thought about the carrot sale he was supposed to grab. He thought about the nice warm meal he planned to make. He thought about every second wasted with blasters, yelling, and portals. Then he exhaled heavily. Fine. I'll go punch your boss. Rex nodded, his face softening with relief. I'll guide you to the surface. But, thank you. Saitama shrugged. Don't thank me. I'm still annoyed. He crouched, legs coiling with impossible strength. Rex braced himself instinctively as wind blasted outward from the sudden buildup of energy. Saitama launched upward like a comet fired from the planet's core. The shockwave knocked Rex flat on his back. His visor rattled across the walkway, lost to the abyss. The captain lay there staring up at the retreating figure, a streak of yellow and white shooting straight toward the Senate dome. Rex whispered under his breath, voice trembling with awe. He punches holes in destiny and doesn't even realize it. As the rumble of Saitama's leap faded, Rex picked himself up slowly. His legs felt weak. His heart pounded with a new feeling, something clones were never meant to have. He retrieved his blaster, tightening his grip. If this anomaly could break chains, then Rex would make sure those chains stayed broken, no matter the cost. The Empire would not control him again. Not without a fight. The Senate district above was a maze of lightning, alarms, and panic. Saitama soared upward from the underbelly, rocketing past broken platforms and clouds of steam. The cityscape rushed by like streaks of neon, the storm throwing rain in his face so hard it felt like tiny pellets of ice. He landed on a high walkway just outside a large hangar bay. Enormous blast doors half open, sparks flying from the locking mechanisms. The air tasted of ozone and burning metal. From within came shouting, desperate, fearful. Saitama walked closer, boots splashing in puddles. Blaster bolts lit up the darkness inside. Fall back, someone yelled. He entered the hangar to see a cluster of Jedi survivors, mostly knights, a few Padawans, and among them, Ahsoka Tano, blue and white leka damp from the storm, her dual sabers blazing like beacons. She deflected a barrage of incoming fire from clone troopers who had cornered them. Her movements were quick and elegant, but heavily outnumbered, even she was tiring. Saitama raised a brow. Wow, someone's got octopus hair. Ahsoka glanced at him mid-parry. Seriously? We're fighting for our lives and that's your first thought? He shrugged. Couldn't help it. Style points though. Ahsoka grit her teeth. Clearly this stranger wasn't force-sensitive or tactically aware. But strangely, she didn't feel the force in him at all. Stay behind cover, she ordered. Saitama stared at her, genuinely confused. From those guys. A clone grenade skidded across the floor and stopped at his feet. He picked it up, squinting at it. What's this? A lemon? It beeped angrily. Oh, like a spicy lemon. He gently tossed it upward. The explosion kicked off overhead, shattering hanging lights. Everyone ducked, except Saitama, who only yawned as glass rained down. The clones reloaded and advanced forward in deadly formation. Their boots hit the durasteel floor with unbreakable rhythm. Ahsoka braced herself, ready to take fire to shield the Padawans behind her. Suddenly, Saitama was gone. No blur, just vanished. Then reappeared standing in the middle of the trooper line. Every clone froze. He tapped one on the shoulder. Excuse me, I think you dropped your toy. Without warning, the entire squad blasted backward, armor clashing against the walls like dominoes made of steel. They groaned and stayed down. Ahsoka stared. What was that? Saitama shrugged again. Just a flick. Anyway, hey, do you know where I could get groceries? Preferably on sale? Been trying to figure that out since I got here. One young Padawan with shaking hands whispered, "He's not a Jedi." "No," Ahsoka murmured, staring at him as if her vision couldn't quite focus. "He's something else." Saitama scanned the hangar impatiently. "So, no supermarket? This place has terrible customer service." The Padawans looked at Ahsoka nervously. She motioned for silence and addressed him cautiously. "You're an anomaly. The Force doesn't know you. That frightens a lot of people." "Should it?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. Before she could answer, the ground trembled violently. Alarms blared louder, this time accompanied by a low, bone-rattling hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Ahsoka staggered, eyes widening. "That's the Chancellor. He's activating something massive." The giant blast doors slammed shut. Red lights strobed across the walls. A metallic voice echoed, "District lockdown complete. All exits sealed." Saitama let out a frustrated groan. "I just came from down there." Ahsoka stepped closer, her tone turning urgent. "If he catches you, he will bend the future to his will. He wants to use you to change fate itself." "That sounds like work," Saitama replied flatly. "I hate work." A Jedi Knight spoke up from behind a shuttle, his voice shaking. "We should run. Hide. Find another star and stay there." "No," Ahsoka said with a fiery glare. "If we run, he wins. If we let him reshape destiny using whatever this guy is, the galaxy is finished." Saitama pointed at himself, unimpressed. "You know I'm just a dude who punches stuff, right?" Ahsoka held his gaze. "You don't have to be a Jedi to make the right choice." Saitama turned away, sighing heavily. He stared out at the storm beyond the hangar, lightning illuminating every corner of the city. He had wanted a simple life. Heroes for fun don't think about destiny or empires. They think about discounted carrots and being home before the coupon expires. But sometimes fights choose you, and this one kept finding him. He cracked his neck and rolled his shoulders. "Fine. Let's go shut your boss up." The hangar shook again. Massive energy conduits along the walls pulsed with ominous red glow. Ahsoka stepped closer, lowering her sabers slightly. "You're really going to help?" "Yeah," Saitama mumbled. "Not like I'm doing anything important anyway." The tension in Ahsoka's stance melted into determination. "Then we move, now." Rex burst into the hangar, visor under his arm, gasping for breath. "He's powering up the ritual. The whole Senate Rotunda is transforming into a containment field." Saitama raised a brow. "Containment field? For me? That's like celebrity treatment." Rex looked at him, dead serious. "No, it's a prison and a weapon. You inside it means the rest of the galaxy pays the price." Saitama stared at Rex for a moment. For once, his bored expression faded. He clenched his fist just enough for thunder to answer. "Enough talk. Lead the way." Rex nodded sharply. "Follow me." Ahsoka turned back to the surviving Jedi. "Get to the lower hangars. Protect the children. We'll draw the Empire's attention." The knights hesitated. One asked, "What about you?" Ahsoka smirked. "I've survived worse." The Jedi relaxed a bit, bowing in gratitude before vanishing through a maintenance tunnel with the Padawans. Ahsoka ignited her sabers once more, blue blades casting fierce reflections on her determined face. Rex secured his blaster. Saitama stretched his shoulders like someone warming up for a morning jog. "Hope this elevator isn't as confusing as the last one I took." Together, the unlikely trio sprinted toward the main exit. The storm outside roared, the kind that announces a breaking point. Somewhere far above, Emperor Palpatine smiled into the darkness. The anomaly was coming to him, and soon, destiny itself would kneel. The storm outside hit the Senate district like a wrathful ocean. Lightning crashed against towering durasteel columns, and winds screamed across the platforms. The entire district glowed under emergency red lighting, a warning to anyone who still had the courage or foolishness to stay. Rex, Ahsoka, and Saitama sprinted through the open walkway, rain pelting their faces. The path led straight to the towering Senate Rotunda, its dome splitting apart like a cracked egg, revealing a swirling tornado of crimson energy spiraling into the sky. Saitama pointed casually. "Let me guess. That's where the grumpy lightning wizard lives." "That's where he's rewriting the galaxy," Ahsoka answered, breath tight with urgency. Rex slapped a control panel on a blast door. "Nothing." He pounded his fist against it. "He's overridden every lock. We're shut out." Saitama walked forward, lightly tapped the door with one finger. The entire steel barrier blasted off its hinges and soared across the plaza like a frisbee. "That works," Rex muttered, staring at the destroyed entrance. "Yeah, that definitely works." Inside, storm winds ripped at their clothing. The chamber floor vibrated beneath them, humming with raw energy. Saitama could feel the pull, a gravity that wasn't physical, a demand for him to enter deeper into the ritual's heart. Ahsoka gripped his arm. "He's drawing you in. Don't let the Emperor control how you step into this." Saitama shrugged. "Pretty sure I'm controlling my stepping." "See?" He took a random step left. Rex cleared his throat. "Maybe step forward instead." Saitama smirked. "Fine." The deeper they moved into the Senate interior, the stranger the world became. Platforms twisted like warped metal petals around a vortex. Statues crumbled from the pressure of unseen power. Lightning flickered from wall to wall like angry serpents. At the center of the spiraling chaos stood Emperor Palpatine. His cloak whipped around him like a living shadow. His arms were raised, hands pulling on invisible threads. The Force itself bent and screamed under his command. Glowing red sigils carved themselves into the air, rotating around him, a ritual written in power older than the Jedi and far more dangerous. Palpatine's voice boomed, layered with unnatural echo. "The time has come." He turned slowly, eyes glowing sickly gold as they fixed on Saitama. "The anomaly shall be locked into destiny, and all futures will bow to my will." Ahsoka stepped forward, sabers igniting with twin flashes of blue. "You're insane. No one controls the future." Rex raised his rifle beside her, stance brave though he trembled. Saitama cracked his knuckles loudly. "I was ready to go home hours ago. But nope. You had to make a whole thing out of this." Palpatine spread his arms, and the air rippled with lethal energy. "You misunderstand, little void. You are not here to resist. You are here to serve." A beam of spiraling dark red energy shot from his palms, not to destroy Saitama, but to bind him. The beam hit Saitama's chest and wrapped around his body like chains of lightning. Ahsoka gasped. "He's trying to imprison you inside the Force." Palpatine grinned with mad triumph. "At last, a blade that cannot be broken, a destiny with no choice." Saitama stared down at the glowing chain as if it were a seat belt buckle. He flicked it with one finger. It shattered. Palpatine's smile collapsed. "Impossible!" Saitama glared back, finally annoyed. "I said I don't like being bossed around." He leaped forward, a blur. Palpatine barely raised a shield of compressed force before. The shield shattered under a single punch, blowing the Emperor backward across the platform. Palpatine crashed into a cluster of Senate pods that exploded in flames behind him. Rex and Ahsoka shielded themselves against the shockwave, stunned by the sheer magnitude of it. Ahsoka whispered, "He broke a force barrier with one punch." Rex finished, without even trying. Palpatine dragged himself from the rubble, wheezing as his form flickered, old, then older, then younger, age shifting like a broken hologram. "You are a direct contradiction to the Force," he spat. "A glitch in the tapestry of existence." Saitama scratched his ear. "I mean, I just showed up. You did all the dramatic yelling." Palpatine staggered to his feet, fury twisting every wrinkle of his face. He thrust both hands outward. Lightning, dark side storms, columns of pure hate made real. Everything converged on Saitama, and yet nothing moved him. He actually looked bored. Ahsoka's voice cracked with shock. How is he? Saitama interrupted by brushing debris from his shoulder. Man, this is dragging on. Let's wrap this up. But before he could throw another punch, the building shook violently. More Senate pods tore from their moorings and spiraled around Palpatine like planets pulled into the ritual's gravity. They formed a rotating ring of destruction, a giant crown of metal and fire. Palpatine floated upward, suspended by the dark side itself. His voice thundered, "Anomaly, your cooperation is irrelevant." The sigils exploded outward, casting a net of red energy across the district, sealing every escape route above, below, and through space-time itself. Saitama looked around at the cracking walls and swirling debris. Okay, this is officially the second worst shopping trip of my life. Rex shouted, "We need a plan." Ahsoka yelled above the chaos, "We need control of the battlefield." Saitama just nodded. I got this." He leaped straight into the maelstrom. Wind tore at his cape. Lightning reflected off his gloves. The darkness tried to swallow him, and Saitama punched the air. The vortex shuddered violently. Palpatine gasped, not from pain, but from fear. "You would destroy the very fate that binds this galaxy." Saitama stared him down, eyes unshaken. That fate picked the wrong guy to mess with. The impact that followed cracked the sky. The ritual wasn't finished. The Emperor wasn't beaten. But the balance of the battle just shifted. The center of the Senate Rotunda had become a storm of impossible proportions. The swirling vortex above Palpatine expanded, pulling loose debris upward like a tornado hungry for metal. Pods, banners, and entire support beams twisted into its maw. The air tasted like electricity and dread. Ahsoka shielded her eyes against the fierce glow. Rex dug his boots into the floor, bracing against the vicious wind. Everything inside the chamber felt like the end of the world. Except Saitama. He hovered calmly amid the chaos, cape whipping violently behind him as reality bent and screamed around him. Palpatine, suspended by raw hatred, screeched, "You are a weapon born without purpose. A flaw in the Force. And I will forge you into meaning." Ahsoka could barely breathe. "If he completes that binding ritual..." Rex finished her sentence grimly. "Every living mind will be trapped inside the future he chooses." Palpatine thrust his hands outward, and the sigils tightened around Saitama like constricting snakes made of crimson lightning. The Emperor roared, "With your power, I shall tear destiny apart." Saitama stared at the glowing chains tightening across his chest. His expression changed. No more boredom, no more jokes. Just a flicker of something very close to disappointment. He whispered to himself, "I'm nobody's weapon." Palpatine dragged him toward the vortex, toward the prison where the Force would rewrite all existence. Ahsoka tried to move, but the air pinned her like an invisible cage. Rex tried to raise his blaster, but his arms locked in place. No one in the chamber could resist the ritual. No one except Saitama. The chains pulled harder. His boots scraped against the cracked platform. The pressure mounted, threatening to crush bone and soul alike. Saitama exhaled slowly. Then he raised his fist. Just one. Palpatine's eyes widened, sensing the inevitable too late. Saitama's voice was steady and low. "No more destiny." He punched the air. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply final. The world stopped. The sound of the punch vanished into absolute silence. Then the shockwave hit. A wall of white light blasted outward, erasing every sigil, every chain, every shred of the ritual's power. The vortex collapsed inward until it vanished with a sound like a vacuum closing. Palpatine was hurled backward through the air, smashing into the far wall. The rotunda's structure cracked from floor to dome. The entire Senate plunged into breathless stillness. And far beyond the chamber, across every corner of the galaxy, for one full second, the Force ceased to exist. Jedi lowered sabers, gasping as they lost all connection. Sith stumbled, suddenly powerless. Clone troopers froze mid-trigger pull, confused and afraid. Younglings screamed in panic as the invisible warmth that guided them vanished. Even Yoda, halfway across the city, staggered and clutched his chest. He croaked in fear. The Force gone. The balance broken. Then, just as abruptly as it vanished, the Force crashed back like a tidal wave, wild and unstable, gasping for breath as if the universe itself had nearly died. Ahsoka collapsed to her knees. Rex dropped his blaster. Saitama lowered his fist and looked mildly disappointed. Still no groceries. Palpatine lay crumpled in rubble, robes torn and face bruised. He dragged himself upright, trembling with fury, and something far worse. "You punched the Force silent," he croaked. Saitama shrugged. "Just a punch." "No," Palpatine whispered, voice breaking. He stared at Saitama as if he were staring at oblivion itself. "You are outside fate. You can unmake everything." Saitama turned away, clearly done. Palpatine's voice cracked, frail. "Brother." Saitama froze. He glanced over his shoulder. "Don't pretend we are strangers," the Emperor rasped. "I remember the storm. I remember the portal that stole you away from me." Saitama frowned. His head throbbed with a memory that wasn't clear. A rooftop. Laughter. 2 children holding hands. A flash of lightning. Then nothing. "I don't know you," Saitama muttered. "But I know you," Palpatine cried. "You were meant to be mine." Ahsoka ignited her sabers again, stepping between them. "Don't listen to him. Every word he speaks is poison." Saitama didn't respond. He simply leapt. A quiet, effortless jump that took him straight up through a broken section of the dome. The storm swallowed him. Palpatine slumped in defeat. Lightning flickered uselessly around his fingers. "Run then," he whispered. "I will find you. Across time. Across galaxies." Rex moved to Ahsoka, helping her regain her breath. Both stared upward at the hole Saitama left. A jagged window into the wailing storm. Above them, the clouds parted slightly, revealing stars. A streak of light flashed across the sky. A burning meteor? A figure, metal body glowing bright from atmospheric entry, shot down toward Coruscant like a falling comet. Flames peeled away from reinforced cybernetics. Sensors glowed bright blue. A voice crackled through internal systems. "Master, I have traced your dimensional displacement signal." He accelerated. "I am coming to your side." The streak of fire destined in one direction. Straight toward Saitama. Palpatine looked up too. His mouth curled into a wicked smile. "Oh yes, let the void draw more anomalies." In the sky, the figure's name finally echoed. Genos. He was almost here. The storm roared again as if announcing a new war. The galaxy trembled. And Saitama? He floated still, staring upward. Finally, someone familiar.